All right, here we go. Moving on. We're going to move on to our second method of graphing lines, and this is actually the method that's going to be the easiest. I would say this is probably our go-to method, probably the quickest method of graphing any line, and this is when we use slope-intercept form. All right, I kind of talked about this a little bit. We definitely talked about slope. Well, what is slope-intercept form? Slope-intercept form is this: y equals m times x plus b. All right, now m and b are going to represent either the slope or an intercept, and m, we figured that out. That's slope. Now, the reason why we say that's m, some students say, well, why can't we make that s, right? Slope begins with s. Reason why we say it's m, because this is how we move point to point on the line. So I'll put move point to point. It's an easy way to remember it. Think of m and think of moving on the line. Now B, this is the y-intercept. This is the point on the line that intercepts the y-axis. It's on the y-axis. Now, reason why we say that this is B, when we graph, and it's in slope-intercept form, this is where we begin our graph, right? Begin your graph begins with the letter B. So I'll put this begin our graph, or begin our line. So for all these ones that we do, it's going to be in the slope-intercept form. We're first going to identify m and b, and then we're going to use that to get our graph. So if I'm going to do, I don't know, 2 or 3 of these. If I looked at the first one, all right, if I want to identify m, well, m is the number that multiplies the x, so that's 2. Now I always want to write the slope as a fraction. So since 2 is a whole number, its fraction is 2 over 1. And then b is just this value right here. It's -3. Don't forget that negative. Now there's 2 steps to graphing this line. Now as I said, I'm going to use the b first because this is where we begin our graph. So I'm going to begin with this. So I'm going to graph -3. Since it is a y-intercept, I'm going to put a point at -3 on the y-axis, which is, right, that's the origin. I go down 3 units, it's right there. So that's where I begin my graph. Here, it's at -3 right there on the y-axis. So I'll put a little check mark. I dealt with the b. Now, to get another point, this is where I'm going to use the slope, or 2 over 1. This is how I move from point to point on the line. Now remember, 2 over 1, slope is rise over run. So I'll put this rise over run. So what that means is the rise is 2. So from this point, I'm going to go up 2 units, and then the run is 1, so I'm going to go to the right 1. So I'm going to go up 2 to the right 1, and there's where I have a point. So you go up 2 to the right 1, and I can keep doing the same thing. Right? Everything is constant right there. I go up 1, 2 to the right 1. There I get another point that lies on the line. Up 2, 1, 2 to the right 1, and I can keep doing it. Let's say I pick another one. Right? From here, I go up 1, 2 to the right 1. Right? And it lines up with that line. So I go up 2 to the right 1. There it is. I have my line, connect it. So no messy XY charts. Just identify M and B, and you actually get the line very, very quickly. All right, let's go down to number 2. All right, number 2, let's just identify M and B. All right, M in this case is the number before the X, so that's 1/2. So that tells me I'm going to go up 1 to the right 2. And then the B value is this, the -1. So I always begin with the B value. So -1, this is -1 on the y-axis. So I go down 1, and that's my first point. -1 on the y-axis, which is right here. So I'll put a little check mark. I'm done that. Then let's use this. Let's use 1/2. So remember, 1/2, rise over run. This means I go up 1, and then it is what? The run is 2, so I go to the right 2 units. So I'm always going to do this from point to point. Up 1 to the right 2. So this is where I begin. I go up 1 to the right 2. There's where my second point is going to be. All right, so when I go up 1 to the right 2, it's right here. Let's get one more point. Then from this point, I do the same thing. Up 1 to the right, 2 points, and there it is. It lines up. So when I went up 1 to the right 2, there it is. Connect it, and we have our line. All right, so this is a lot quicker. So just identify what M is, what B is. Always begin with B, so you graph that first point on the y-axis, then use your slope to get other points on the line.